Hi, I'm Shashank Birla, and you really shouldn't be knowing me except if you've seen me jump up and down on a safari jeep like a possessed lunatic, or if you've seen me slipping on a banana peel while stalking, and I kid you not, stalking birds. But on today's episode, we want to talk about these awesome animals, tigers. Now, tigers have captured our imagination perhaps unlike any other animal. From being the mascot for endangered species worldwide, to being India's national animal, and I know you were waiting for this.
I'm Joe Exotic, and don't forget, I am now stepping my foot in the ring to run for president. And this is all paid for by the committee of Joe Exotic Speaks for America.
Seriously, if you haven't seen Tiger King yet, please do yourself the best favor in the world. And after you've seen Joe Exotic, Carol Baskin and Doc Antle, I can pretty much guarantee that you will have learned much more about us as a species. But to get back to tigers, there was an incident that was reported at the Bronx Zoo in New York that caught the media's attention.
As New York City approaches the apex of infection, some of its animal residents now dealing with COVID-19. A 4-year-old Malayan tiger named Nadia at the Bronx Zoo testing positive.
That's right, and it wasn't just the tigress Nadia that got infected. Over the next week, 4 more tigers and 3 lions were infected with this coronavirus. Now, just to be clear, these cats did contract the disease we know today as COVID-19 and not the feline coronavirus, which can cause feline infectious peritonitis, also known as FIP, which is very dangerous for members of the cat family and can be fatal. Now, it hasn't been very clear how these 8 big cats contracted this coronavirus, but initial reports from the Bronx Zoo did mention that it was possibly due to some contact with the handler of these animals. Soon enough, this report from New York blew up the world over and became a high-profile case of human to animal transmission of COVID-19 and became particularly important for tigers. Now, when we talk about tigers, there are 3 subspecies which are already extinct in the wild: the Javan, the Caspian, and the Bali tiger. The 6 subspecies that are alive today include the Siberian, the Sumatran, the Malayan, the Bengal, the Indo-Chinese, and the South China tiger. Yeah, you heard right. China has 2 subspecies of these big guys. And well, they haven't been seen much in the past decade or so, presumably because when they saw this report, they got the hell out of there. Now, the initial reports from the Bronx Zoo did mention that it was the Malayan and the Siberian tigers that had gotten infected, but there is a strong concern that it could affect other subspecies of tigers as well. This has led to concern the world over about 2 populations of tigers: the captive tigers in zoos and the wild tigers living in their natural habitats. And believe it or not, there are more captive tigers out there today than there are in the wild. Now, you would think that since zoos are closed the world over, these would remain isolated incidents. As soon as the report for Nadia's coronavirus infection became public, zoos went on high alert, and veterinarian staff started taking the necessary precautions to ensure the minimal risk of infection to these animals, which is likely to make vets tap their inner bane.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
Yeah, and you'd be right, veterinarians. You are an underappreciated lot. Just don't bring a 1 megaton nuclear bomb to our cities, please. But there is a strong concern about wild populations getting infected as well, because a recent Chinese study has found that domestic cats could infect one another by inhaling respiratory droplets. Conversely, the same study also found that dogs, chickens, pigs, and ducks couldn't infect each other that way, so it's just another reason for cats to hate the world. This study did highlight the risk of infection for wild tiger populations, and with an estimate of 3,000 individuals, India is home to 70% of the world's wild tiger population. Now, India was quick to act, putting all zoos and tiger reserves on high alert. The NTCA, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, issued a circular stating that it was best that all tiger reserves remain closed until further orders, which will certainly go a long way in shielding these big cats from the coronavirus infection. Further, the field staff and forest department officials that monitor and patrol these parks and protect them from threats have been pretty much restricted in their travel during India's lockdown, because of which COVID-19 has as yet not majorly spread to those living in and around these protected areas. Further, the threat may not be from the coronavirus itself, but the environment that it is creating. According to Dr. Ullas Karans from the Center of Wildlife Studies India, there is a concern that there could be increased poaching at this time due to restrictions in monitoring and a large exodus of migrants that are now moving from cities to villages. They may look at hunting bushmeat such as wild boar or deer in order to sustain themselves, and this not only affects the tiger's prey base but may also bring tigers into conflict with people, which is a very worrying scenario. There are also questions on what will happen when restrictions are eased, when those living around these parks could travel outside and return. Even tourism has been an important source of livelihood for those living around these parks. Apart from the significant revenue generated which is directly collected by the Tiger Reserve management, the locals have a stake in protecting these habitats and have thus cultivated a positive attitude towards conservation. Finding the balance is going to be crucial going forward. We can't really ask tigers to wear masks or practice social distancing, but we can certainly take precautions of our own. Thermal screening for visitors at the safari gate, wearing comfortable masks on safari, maybe just some of the things that we can do to protect wild tiger populations. We could probably replicate some of those precautions even for the places where these big cats are housed, captive facilities such as zoos. In fact, the government of the state of Uttar Pradesh in India has already been making significant strides, identifying quarantine areas which could house sick animals both in zoos and in tiger reserves, as well as separate facilities for forest department staff which may contract the coronavirus, as well as regular health checkups for all of them. But above all, look, we have to be careful and alert in even tackling this issue. During this entire crisis, we have been at our best when we have learned that there are some things which are not working, discarding those, and then adopting newer and better solutions in dealing with a pandemic we have not seen in our lifetime. And at this time, of course, everybody understands balancing people's livelihoods and containing the spread of the coronavirus is supremely challenging. But it's also vital that we remember this, that at a time like this, we should not only be just taking care of ourselves, but of a species which has been immortalized in our culture and heritage. Well, that's it. Do drop in your comments about how you felt that episode was. And if you enjoyed this episode of Nature Natter, please do subscribe to our channel. Take care, guys.